Marcus Aurelius Meditations, a book about Stoicism. He was a Roman emperor, and he wrote these notes about life, which are really great. One thing he says here is, through not observing what is in the mind of another man, has seldom been seen to be unhappy. But those who do not observe the movements of their own minds must of necessity be unhappy. In other words, what he's saying there is, if you don't think about what other people are doing, and you don't worry about what other folks are doing with their lives, what they're thinking about, if you don't pay attention to the business of others, that's not going to make your life less happy or less complete. But your life will be less complete if you spend your life not thinking about your own business, your own mind. He says that we ought to consider not only that our life is daily wasting away and a smaller part of it is left, but another thing also must be taken into account, that if a man should live longer, it is quite uncertain whether the understanding will still continue sufficient for the comprehension of things, and retain the power of contemplation which strives to acquire the knowledge of the divine and the human. For if he shall begin to fall into dotage, perspiration and nutrition, and imagination and appetite, and whatever else there is of the kind, will not fail, but the power of making use of ourselves and filling up the measure of our duty, and clearly separating all appearances and considering whether a man should now depart from life, and whatever else of the kind absolutely requires a disciplined reason, all this is already extinguished. We must make haste, then, not only because we are daily nearer to death, but also because the conception of things and the understanding of them cease first. And what he's saying there is, we are assured nothing when it comes to our life. Our life might be over soon, but even if we have a long life, there's always the possibility that as we grow older and our mental abilities and our physical abilities decline, there's things that you can do today that you aren't going to be able to do later on. And so it's important to think about that and make sure that you make use of your time today, because even if you are around in the future, there's some things maybe you can't do a decade from now that you can do today. So don't put off things, because you might realize that you've always said, well, I'll get around to it. I'll do it one day when I have a chance or when I have time. I think about people who spend their life trying to advance their careers and all of that kind of stuff, and they get to the end of their working life, and then they approach retirement. And unfortunately, the cruel joke is they realize that there's a lot of things maybe they don't have the energy or the ability to do that they could have done when they were younger or something like that. But they were so busy grinding and saying, well, one day I will be able to have all of those things that I have wanted for my whole life. And then when they actually get there, maybe they have the things, but they don't have the ability to truly enjoy them. And that's a cruel reality, perhaps, but it's also real. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and I think another thing that really stood out to me was this notion of minding one's own business and not being too busy with the doing of things. there's a lot of people who say, I'm too busy to do things that are unimportant, too busy for leisure. And, haven't we all heard that? You're too busy for your family, you're too busy for your kids, too busy to play games, too busy to read books. And I can't help but think, well, what do you have time for then? What do you have time for if you're always too busy doing things, to do the things which might better or enrich your soul? Here Marcus Aurelius writes, though thou shouldest be going to live 3,000 years, and as many times 10,000 years, still remember that no man loses any other life than this which he now lives, nor lives any other than this which he now loses. The longest and shortest are thus brought to the same, for the present is the same to all, though that which perishes is not the same, and so that which is lost appears to be a mere moment. For a man cannot lose either the past or the future, for what a man has not, how can anyone take this from him? These two things when thou must bear in mind. The one, that all things from eternity are of like forms and come round in a circle, and that it makes no difference whether a man shall see the same things during 100 years or 200 or an infinite time. And the second, that the longest liver and he who will die soonest lose just the same, for the present is the only thing of which a man can be deprived, if it is true that this is the only thing which he has, and that a man cannot lose a thing if he has it not. So you see, I think the high level takeaway of that is, we live our lives and we think so much is personal. Everything is so much all about us. And the reality is we are just temporary stewards of this experience that we've had in life. And it's a very temporary experience. The only thing we really have is this specific moment that we are living in today. And all of the rest of it is purely not ours. And yet we think that we have all of this possession of time, and we take things so indignantly when they don't go our way. And yet we just are really this sort of a flash in the pan, if you will, just a very short little period of time that we have to do things. And in the end, it's really nothing but a moment. And we take it so seriously, to be so indignant about so much. And we also treat it so flippantly, because we act as if we'll be living for thousands of years, when really we will be probably fading away no sooner than we begin to have awareness of who we are. Marcus Aurelius writes, from Alexander the Platonic I learned not frequently nor without necessity to say to anyone, or to write in a letter, that I have no leisure, nor continually to excuse the neglect of duties required by our relation to those with whom we live, by alleging urgent occupations. That's really directed at the career man right there. That whole, I'm too busy, too busy for fun and games, too busy for my family, too busy for all of that. And, what a fool you are if you're too busy for the things that matter, because you're busy doing things which are not even yours anyway. You see, life is something we should be ready to leave at any given time, really. We should be content and at peace to let go of it. And if we realize today we have to be ready to pack our bags, get out of town, and let somebody else take over, then I guess we're not going to be too much all about ego then if we're willing to let go. It's when we think that we're going to live forever that we start wanting to be like gods. Never value anything as profitable to thyself, which shall compel thee to break thy promise, to lose thy self-respect, to hate any man, to suspect, to curse, to act the hypocrite, to desire anything which needs walls and curtains. For he who has preferred to everything else his own intelligence and daemon and the worship of its excellence, acts no tragic part, does not groan, will not need either solitude or much company. And what is chief of all, he will live without either pursuing or flying from death. But whether for a longer or a shorter time, he shall have the soul enclosed in the body. He cares not at all. For even if he must depart immediately, he will go as readily as if he were going to do anything else which can be done with decency and order, taking care of this only all through life, that his thoughts turn not away from anything which belongs to an intelligent animal and a member of a civil community. In other words, always be ready to die by living a life free from lies, free from secrets, free from the betrayal of your brethren. As Warren Buffett once said, if you live your life every day as if your deeds were going to be published in tomorrow's newspaper, be shameless and be transparent, be honest, because good character is something that money can't buy. It is really, really humbling and amazing to realize that people who've lived for who lived thousands of years ago, managed to think about the same things we do and come up with such thoughtful ways of coming to terms with those same questions that we face today. I also think it's interesting how there's such a rise in appeal and intrigue surrounding Stoic philosophy and all of those old things in a world which is so driven by technology and things that are modern and new progress and all of that. It really is true that perhaps the more things change, the more they stay the same, because even in a world filled with artificial intelligence and all of those modern things, we still have a desire to contemplate our existence and to ask higher questions. Perhaps even more so now that we perhaps are a bit less inclined to align with traditional religions and things. We still have those same questions that deserve answering. And, whether you're a man of faith or science, at the end of the day, though, it all comes down to those golden rule sorts of things. Live your life today as if it's your last day on earth, because of surety, one day it will be. Be at peace with all men, and always remember, do what you will, but follow the golden rule of doing harm to none. As always, good luck on your adventure. Till next time, thanks for watching.